this is what you've all been waiting for. Key 4 is where we implement our promotions. So really get a picture in your head of who the ideal customer is for your particular product. Now, as detailed as you can be, the better. It's a good idea to even write some of this stuff down. You really want to have a mental picture of what they look like. What color hair do they have? Do they wear glasses? Their age, sometimes gender or race is going to have an effect. As specific as possible, who is a perfect person to buy your product? You really want to have this person in mind, because as you start to implement these promotional tools, you really want to be talking to that particular person. You also want to think about what is the perfect target market for your particular product. What geographic location, distribution-wise, what's going to be the easiest way to get your product to this particular market. And obviously it's going to be connected to your ideal customer and where they live. So that moves us into what people commonly call the 4 Ps of marketing. And sometimes people have 5 Ps. I've also heard of 6 or 7 Ps. I'll keep it simple with 4 Ps. They are product, price, place, and then promotion. So I know I keep putting you off, but sooner or later we are going to get to the promotional element. So first of all, product. Now, I'm sure we understand what that means, but just in case, a product is the actual physical good that you are taking to the market and that you're promoting. It can also be a service that you provide. So when I'm talking about a product, it might not be a physical product. It could be a service that you provide, but that actually is your product. Price. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about price and how you don't really want to compete on price, but how do we determine price? Well, generally in the marketplace, people will use one of 3 methods. One is called price parity, and that means they will see what else is in the market and try to price their product. So it's a good competitive price. It's around the same price, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on what they're offering. That's a very common strategy, to pretty much look at the market, look at your competition, and set a price that way. Second way to do it is with a standard markup. So a 50% markup is a standard markup in a lot of retail industries, depending on what you're selling. So people just say, well, this is going to be our percentage markup regardless of whatever product it is. So we'll take this particular product and we'll just do our standard markup. Another strategy is what's called zero-based pricing, which, as the name probably will connote to you, is not always the best way to go. But the way this works is you're going to do such a massive quantity of production, you're going to have so many products on the market, you can afford to have almost no margin whatsoever, maybe just a little tiny margin, so that on some of your products, so that you do make some kind of profit. But it has more to do with a massive scale of products that you're moving, so you can make just a small percentage of profit and still get by. Now, I would prefer that you not use any of these methods. Instead, I would take a look at perceived value of your consumer when setting your price. Now, to do this is a little bit different, because you're actually going to have to go out and do some market research and talk to some people about what they think your product is worth and what would be a good price to pay for your particular product. And then also actually pricing some goods at that and realizing you might need to do some price adjusting once you put your product into the market. So let's say, for example, I'm going to sell hats, and I think this is a really great hat, and I'm going to sell them for $20. Now, what if the market, or my ideal customer, is only willing to pay $15 for that hat, and I'm trying to sell them for $20? I'm not going to sell very many hats. Now, what if I decide, well, I think this hat is only worth $10, so I'm going to sell it for $10, but my ideal customer, or my target market, is willing to pay $15? Well, I've just left $5 on the table for no reason other than the fact that I was too lazy to do some research and to find out. So as you're setting your price, the best thing you can do is really to do some research, ask some people what their perceived value of your product is, so you can set it at a good level where they're willing to pay the price that you're setting, but you're also making sure that you're getting all the value you can from your customers. The third P is place, and this has to do with distribution. So are you a physical store which in marketing terms we would call brick and mortar. Or perhaps you're online, which some people will call click and mortar. How are you getting your goods to your customers? And perhaps you are a retailer, you're selling directly to the public or directly to consumers. Perhaps you are not selling directly to the public. Perhaps your customer is another business. So place has to do with the physical location of your business, as well as how are you getting your product to the market. Obviously, in the last few years, the internet has had a big effect on the place of marketing and how products and services are distributed to the target markets. And finally, we're here at promotion. Now, promotion is, again, the nuts and bolts, really what you see of marketing. It's really the materials that you're going to see and the way you're going to be interacting and communicating with your customers. Now, there's a few tools that you can use, and in marketing terms, we call these integrated marketing communications, or IMC tools. And I like to think of it as a little toolbox of marketing, a marketing toolbox. And I'm going to go over a few tools here that you should have in your marketing toolbox. And depending on what your product is and what your target market is, you're going to use one, two, or a series of those tools together to most effectively reach your target market. So, tool number one is advertising. Now, a lot of people are familiar with advertising. We're exposed to a lot of advertising. So we're talking about things like television, radio, newspaper. Advertising, by definition, is paid communication, and the goal or the definition of true advertising is to promote image and awareness of your particular product to new customers. So this is a way to communicate to new customers, somebody who does not know who you are, that you do exist, and that, of course, going back to key one, we want to promote to them to the advantage of our product and why they should be buying from us instead of our competition. A couple of things to keep in mind when it comes to advertising is it's not a good idea to advertise to your current customers, because by definition, advertising is to promote image and awareness to new customers, so people who do not know who you are. Now, that does not mean we don't communicate with our current customers, and we're going to talk about that some more in a moment, but that's not really, by definition, the goal of advertising. Advertising, therefore, should be targeted at people who do not already know who you are. So if you're reaching people who already know who you are and telling them, hey, this product exists, they should already know that. Perhaps they're already a customer. So it's very wasteful to send advertising to your current customers. Also, you want to make sure that you're really targeting the right target audience and ideal customers with your communications. Now, when I teach my university courses, I'll often ask the students, how many of you like the Bud Light commercials? And most people will wave their hands and they'll start doing some of the lines from the commercials and saying how funny they are. And I'll say, oh, that's great. You know, obviously they're all being exposed to these commercials. They're reaching you as a particular target. But I say, now raise your hand if you actually drink Bud Light. Now, most of my students don't raise their hands, not because they don't drink, mind you, but because they don't drink Bud Light. So we have a large population here, and even probably a target for Anheuser-Busch, that has seen these commercials, but they're not purchasing the product. So my question is, who cares if they think the commercials are funny? Who cares what they think of them at all? Who cares if they even see them if they're not going to purchase the product? If it's not effective in getting them to purchase it, or they're not going to purchase it anyway, it's really wasted exposure. Wasted exposure. So when you're wasting exposure like that, when it comes to advertising and marketing, you're wasting money. And that is a problem with advertising in general, particularly big broadcast television advertising. There's very little accountability. How do you measure the effectiveness of a television commercial or an advertising campaign? How do you know that because somebody saw a funny Bud Light commercial, they actually went and purchased Bud Light? Now, in general, people will say, they'll look at sales and see, well, we broadcast this commercial and sales went up. The problem is correlation is not necessarily causation. What I mean by that is just because sales might have gone up for that particular period of time, there's no way of really knowing that it was due to those particular television commercials. There's no way to measure it, and there's no accountability. That's definitely a problem with big, mass, broad advertising campaigns, particularly things like television commercials. And it's been a problem in the advertising industry for a long time. Now, we'll talk about this in a moment, but the internet has brought some accountability into advertising, and some of those things are starting to change. But if we look at some of the ad campaigns that have gone on, you can really see that there's no real accountability for what people are generating to the public. They're not even accountable for really promoting the competitive advantage of the product, where you could maybe even have an effect on your audience. An example of this from the past are some Nissan commercials. Now, a few years ago, Nissan had these series of commercials of an older gentleman standing in a field, laughing and smiling, and yeah, that's about it. And then it said something about Nissan. There's no pictures of cars. There's nothing. As a consumer, I'm not really sure what those are supposed to mean or what they're supposed to be communicating to me. They're very artistic and entertaining, I suppose, but I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be saying to me about the Nissan car or why I should purchase it. A friend of mine worked at Nissan and said that, they had the banners up and they had, promotions from the commercials around their offices and things, and just talking to people around the office, nobody that worked at Nissan understood what these commercials were about either. So in essence, these Nissan commercials were somebody's good idea or some advertiser's idea of perhaps art, or but they really didn't translate into sales or something that people could understand what they meant. The advertisers in general, they have award ceremonies where they give out special awards for new commercials or funny commercials or artistic commercials, and that's great, but not if I'm paying for it and not if you're paying for it for your company, because you're really paying for these artists to express themselves with these commercials, but that really should not be the purpose of your advertising and your limited budget and money that you're spending for advertising. The goal of your advertising should be to clearly communicate a message and the competitive advantage of your particular product and getting that across to your target customer and your target market. Now, when I was a kid, there's these really cool commercials for the California raisins. They're these little cartoon kind of claymation characters, and they come out and they sing, "I heard it through the grapevine," and it was very entertaining, and it even sprung into a whole cartoon series. But they quit doing those commercials. Even though they're very popular and the advertisements won awards, the reason why is the sales of the California raisins themselves did not increase. So although these commercials were very entertaining, they did not drive people to actually buy the raisins. Therefore, there's not a whole lot of reason for the marketer to continue to use a tool like that. And then, of course, there's one of the most famous advertising campaigns in recent memory, and that's Got Milk. It's still going on. It's still a campaign that continues. But the question is, got sales? Because milk sales have not gone up. Actually, I read an article where they said that it was considered a successful campaign because milk sales didn't decline after having this Got Milk campaign. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm doing marketing promotions or spending, and I'm sure they spent hundreds of millions of dollars of all the advertising I've seen for Got Milk, I want to see a return on that investment. I want to see people really buying more milk, not that my sales have not gone down. And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to a return on investment. How are you seeing a return on the investment that you're putting in to your advertising? And a problem with a lot of advertising is there is no real accountability. There's actually a term within advertising called impressions, meaning maybe you don't get sales, but you're making impressions on people, and that they're seeing your product and maybe eventually down the line they'll buy something. Well, if you have someone advising you in this way and saying that you're making an impression, I would just say, sorry, I don't do impressions. I need to see some solid sales, and I need to see some accountability in some ways in which spending money here is going to see a return on the investment for my company. One way to do this is to have some kind of linkage in any promotion that you do, advertising in particular. By linkage, I mean there's a connection between the particular advertisement that you're doing and a connection back to you or some way that they can communicate with you or for you to be able to measure your results. Therefore, if you do have, say, a magazine ad, you have a phone number, you have a web address, you have some way for them to connect back to you, and also possibly for you to track the effectiveness of that particular advertisement. So one way to do that is to have a particular web address that you only put with that particular ad. So when people do go to that web address, you know it's because you had this particular advertisement in a magazine. You're able to measure it. And that's a great thing about the internet. You can track when people are coming. You can see how many people have looked at it. If you do a television commercial, there should be some kind of web address or some kind of phone number, some way that people can link back to you. And also you can measure when that airs and people are calling. Another way to do it is to actually ask people, how did you hear about us? That way you can measure what's effective for you. So if you're spending $100,000 here on this ad and $10,000 on the radio and you've got all your promotions spread out, you can actually measure which ones are giving you a return. Which ones should you keep doing and which ones should you stop doing? That's why linkage is very important. Then something else you need to stay away from when you are advertising is inward focused jargon. We talked a little bit about this before with the acronyms, but it's a similar thing. When you're communicating with your customers, you need to be very careful that you're communicating in a way that they can understand. Particularly, we're talking about, in advertising, new people who are not familiar with you. So stay away from using jargon that they're not going to understand. UPS recently started calling themselves Brown. They totally changed their advertising campaign. And you can imagine with the name like UPS, which is an acronym, it took years and a lot of money for people to remember what UPS stood for, and that it was a parcel service, and it was a way to send your packages. So they've really established a brand identity, and they've actually done quite a good job with that. Well, a few years ago, they decided to launch a new ad campaign and call themselves Brown. Or actually, the ad just said, "What can Brown do for you?" Well, I remember seeing these and wondering, what the heck is Brown? And I was able to ask somebody that worked at UPS what that meant, and they said, "Oh, Brown, that's what we call ourselves at UPS because everybody wears brown and things like that. So that's kind of our nickname for ourselves." It's like, okay, well, that makes sense, but what doesn't make sense is turning that into an advertisement. You spend so much money, so much time getting mind share and teaching people what UPS means, and then you change your name, and it's also based on an inside joke. So I would say that's not a good idea. So if you're going to do something like that, I would stay away from it. And I think we said earlier as well, it's okay if your customers have a nickname for you. That's terrific. And you might even want to go with that and put that in some of your promotions. But to all of a sudden change your name or to give yourself a nickname that no one else is aware of is very costly, and you're probably not going to see any return on that investment. So now that we've talked about advertising, and it seems like there are a lot of negatives involved with it, are there any alternatives to advertising? Well, yes, there is. What if I told you that you could get similar promotion, similar type of media coverage that would actually hold more weight with their target audience because they would more likely listen to what this media had to say, and it was free or very low cost to you? Would that be something you would be interested in? Well, that is our second IMC tool, public relations and publicity. Now, like I said, in most cases, public relations and publicity is free because this is getting the media to cover stories about your company or your product, and they are paying for the reporters to come and cover it. Now, there could be some costs involved if you are putting on an event, or perhaps if you have an internal staff person you're paying to be a media relations person. But as far as the coverage you're getting, you're not actually paying for that. Now that's the good news. Well, another piece of good news, of course, is that it does hold more credibility with people that read it. So if someone reads a impartial story about your product saying how great it is in the newspaper, rather than reading it in your own advertisement, they tend to think that the reporter is going to be more credible and more impartial than you're going to be about yourself. So it actually is going to hold more weight with your customers. On the bad side is you do not control what people are writing about you. So it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to public relations and publicity. On one hand, it's inexpensive and it's going to hold a lot of weight. On the other side, you can't really control that message. And that is a good reason to be very careful when you do that, and to even have somebody on your staff that is in charge of interacting with the media. Today there's some great resources available on the internet for companies like PRWeb, that's PRWEB.com, and PRZoom, PRZOOM. And these are places where you can actually post your own press release. And these will be sent out to the news services, and they'll also go across the internet. This is a big change where now really anybody for any size company, large or small, can actually get on and post their own press releases. So anybody in the media has access to it. But there's also a lot more going on the internet now, and more people than just the press are looking for news information. So you can actually sometimes go right past the media and straight to your customers that are looking for information about your company or a product that you're offering. So I do recommend doing press releases on PRWeb and PRZoom and other similar services. The great thing about those two is they are free to post your press releases. Of course, they offer some extra services for additional fees and even press release writing services. But if you want to write it yourself, you can actually post it there for free. So I definitely recommend that and getting involved in public relations and publicity. Not key number 3, but promotion number 3, IMC tool number 3, is sales promotion. Now, usually when I talk about sales promotion, people think I'm talking about sales and selling. Now, this is a little bit different. This has to do with what kind of promotions you can implement that will promote sales, not necessarily the salesperson themselves. So, the goal of your sales promotion is to induce trial of your product. So again, you're really targeting people that have not tried your product with your sales promotion. And you're inducing them to try it usually by some kind of discount or coupon or bonus pack, things like that. And you're lowering the risk to try your product. Because if I can buy, let's say I want to try a new deodorant, it's like, well, I know this one works, and if this one's the same price, then I could be out a couple of dollars. But hey, here's a coupon for a free trial or maybe $1 off. It's lowering the risk for me to try that new product. And if you have confidence in what you're selling or in your product, you're willing to do that because you can lower the risk for someone to try your product because you know that it is superior, you have a competitive advantage, and that they're going to continue to buy it at the regular price once the sales promotion is over. And that's important too. You don't really want to attract or keep people that are only going to buy your product based on the sales promotion, because that, in essence, is lowering your price, and they're going to leave as soon as someone else offers a coupon. So those aren't the kind of people you're looking for. Some types of sales promotion are like a buy one, get one free. We see a lot of coupons as sales promotions, bonus packs, rebates, and something I recommend a lot is events. I've worked with a college, and one of the things I recommended to them was to use events to get people on their campus. And part of the reason why is we're trying to build relationships with people, which is key 5. And it's a little difficult in a 30 or 60-second radio ad to build a relationship with somebody, or even to convince them to make a pretty major life decision like going to college based on just a quick snippet they hear on the radio. But if you can invite them to an activity on your campus that relates to something they're interested in, like sports or music, or maybe a particular educational seminar that also has to do with things that you teach on campus. You can invite them to an event like that, and they come onto your campus. Then they kind of get a feel for who you are. They decide if they like your school. They start to meet the people on the campus. They get a feel for the campus. They know if they like the environment, become familiar with who you are. And that kind of transitions them as you start to build a relationship with them. And that was a big recommendation for this particular college, because they have a great staff and a great campus. So to get people onto the campus and really start to experience that, then when you start talking about, hey, don't you think it'd be a good idea to go to school here or to pursue your career here? It seems like a better idea, and it's more of a soft sell rather than, hey, go to college here today on the radio, pull over your car and call now and enroll. I think that's a less likely scenario than to have somebody come on campus and get involved with you. Rebates as a sales promotion. Let me just say, rebates suck. I do not like filling out rebate forms. I'm sure you don't like filling out rebate forms. Does anybody here like filling out rebate forms? I don't see any hands going up. Now, usually I ask people, why do companies give rebates? And people will usually say, well, they know people aren't going to fill out the rebate forms, so they're going to save some of that money. Well, for you as a marketer, what I would say is you're not really establishing a good relationship with your customers if that's how they view you. So either they're not going to fill out the rebate form, and they're going to feel like they got ripped off and think that you're probably greedy because you know they're not going to fill it out. Or if they actually fill out the rebate form and jump through all these hoops, it's not a very fun thing to do, they're not going to have a very good impression of you because you made them fill out all this stuff to get their money back. So what I would say is take whatever budget you have for a rebate and use that for other promotions, or even just to lower your price if possible. But by all means, please skip the rebates for all our sakes. Now, it's important that as you're doing these different sales promotions that you're linking them. They're not just standalone things. So like I said, we could link an event with advertising on the radio. So if you are doing some radio ads, instead of them just being, hey, we're here, check us out, you could link that radio ad with a particular event on your campus. Or if you do a magazine advertisement, you can put a coupon, you can link a coupon, which is a sales promotion, into your ad. So you're not going to use your sales promotions as standalone things. You're going to use them to link to your advertising and your other promotional items so that they support each other. Another important thing about doing sales promotion or a particular coupon is that you turn it on and you turn it off quickly, kind of like a faucet. You don't want to leave it running, because if you leave it running just like a faucet, it's going to be very wasteful. So if you do a coupon, there definitely needs to be some type of expiration date. Otherwise, you're really lowering your price indefinitely. Also, sometimes you'll see different products or services where you know you can always get a coupon, you can always get it cheaper. And what you've in effect done is to lower your price and, in a sense, try to compete on price again. That's not the idea of your sales promotion. Sales promotions are to be a short-term targeted piece that will allow new people to try your product and then continue to use your product without the coupon and to pay full price. Keeping this in mind, it really does not make sense to send coupons to your customers. Because if you think of the definition of a sales promotion or a coupon, it is to induce trial. Now, somebody is already using your product. Why do you need to send them a discount to try it? That does not make sense. Now, this is a little bit different than a customer reward program. So I'm not saying not to communicate with your customers. By all means, you should be communicating with your customers, and you should be sending them maybe an extra product, or let's say you are going to go into a new market or launch a new product, not a line extension, but maybe a different name, and you would like them to try it. So treat your customers right, give them rewards for buying your product and things like that. But to send them some kind of promotion or coupon to try your product for the first time really does not make sense. And in some ways it can actually be insulting, because they're like, customer's thinking, you know, don't they know who I am, or they've got my name? Don't they know I've already been a loyal customer? Now they're acting like they don't know who I am. Why don't you try our product? There will be times, though, when you will get people that they will not pay full price for your product. All they want is coupons. All they want is a special. And I would say sometimes you have to fire your customers. Now, not everybody's going to be an ideal customer, but you also have people in your business or with your product that are really trying to take advantage of you, and it's just not going to be a good or mutually beneficial relationship. And there might come a time when you just have to fire them. A good sales promotion is to use cause-related marketing. Now, this is good for a few reasons. Well, let me first explain what cause-related marketing is. This is associating yourself with some kind of charity or philanthropy that you're going to support with sales from your product. The reason why this is a good idea is because it's definitely going to help your company. It's going to help your company's image. It's going to show that you really care. You're bigger than just a material good or product. You actually are trying to help somebody else. So that's a win for the company. It's also a win for the person that purchases your product, because instead of me just buying something for myself, I am also supporting a good cause. It's a win for the charity or philanthropy that you're supporting, because they're getting much needed funds coming in that are being donated with the purchase of this product. And the fourth win in this scenario is the people that work at your company, because they get to feel like they're doing something more than maybe just creating some mundane product or widget. They're actually doing something that's going to support a worthy cause or charity. So for all these reasons, I definitely recommend doing some type of cause-related marketing campaign. Now, when you're doing a cause-related marketing campaign, or you're picking a charity or philanthropy, there's a couple ways to do it. One, you can partner with an existing charity, which sometimes is easy, sometimes it's not, depending on the size of your company and the size of the charity. And the other way to go about it is to start your own charity or foundation, something that you're going to promote and give money to. Now, obviously, it's easier to donate to an existing organization because you don't have to set all those things up. But when we talked about partnerships earlier, it's a similar scenario, because you are in essence partnering with another organization and tying your fortunes in with them, your reputation in with theirs, your brand in with theirs. So you need to be very careful about how you choose your partner and who you want to work with in your cause-related marketing campaign. It's also helpful if you can pick a cause that is related to what you are doing. I heard of a toilet paper company that was using golden retrievers to represent their particular product. So they started a cause-related marketing campaign where they're donating money to a golden retriever rescue organization. So you can definitely see a connection there. Let's say you are a computer company or a computer manufacturer, and you want to do something like this. You can raise funds and donate it to computers for school children, things like that. So again, you're using these tools that they're going to reinforce the message in the mind of your consumer of who you are, what you stand for, instead of it just being some random thing that you decide to give money to. I would also say that it needs to be sincere. It needs to be in alignment with the purpose of your organization, and that it's not just something that you're trying to make more sales from. And this becomes very apparent to your target audience. A few years ago, there was a yogurt company that had a promotion. If you took the yogurt lid off and sent it in, I think they gave 5 cents to a breast cancer awareness organization. And the slogan was, "Help lick breast cancer." Now, that's wrong on many levels, but one of the problems with this particular promotion is, taking off a yogurt lid and licking it, it's all sticky, and you're supposed to put that, I don't know, I guess in a Ziploc and mail it for $0.05 a piece or something like that. It's just, maybe they were sincere in it, but when I saw something like that, I'm just like, it looks to me like they're really trying to promote their product, and they're just latching on to something charity that seems to be popular, it seems to be in people's minds, and they're kind of using that to try to sell me. So make sure if you really are doing some kind of cause-related marketing campaign, it is something that you care about, it is something that your organization is behind, and you're really sincere about it, because it will show through in one way or another. Now, part of why these cause-related marketing campaigns are becoming more popular, more effective, is if you look at advertising in general in Western countries. If you go back kind of the early days, early 1900s, and if you look at printed ads or ads for products, they tended to be very detail-oriented, a lot of information, what exactly this particular product is going to do for you. And if you look at the economic situation at that time, if we look at the United States, people were living more on a subsistence level where they were just getting by. So when they bought a product, they really wanted to get their money's worth. They wanted to know exactly what it was going to do for them. And this worked well for a few decades. But once we got into the 60s, there was a real backlash, at least in this country, against materialism. So when it came time to buy something, advertisers started to shift a little bit, and they started to use more emotion in their advertising. They started to appeal to people's emotions rather than just, this product does this for you, and started to play on their emotional levels a little bit. And if you're familiar with psychology and Maslow's hierarchy, you can kind of see the base level of meeting your needs and then emotional. And then we get to today, where most people realize that their emotional needs are not going to be met by any particular product. We've kind of moved past that era into what Maslow would call self-actualized, or more of a spiritual level. And that's why cause-related marketing is more effective today. People are looking to do more with their money. They kind of have enough products, really. But it's, okay, when I buy this particular product, though, I'm actually going to help somebody else. So that really takes it to the next level. Now, another reason why people are doing that through purchasing products, which seems a little strange, is that there's less faith in traditional institutions in our country than there used to be. I mean, people used to go to church or be part of some kind of, or synagogue, or be part of some kind of nonprofit organization or charity more in the past, but there's less faith in those, and people are more independent, and a lot of people don't participate in those institutions, so they don't go to a service on a weekly basis. So they don't really have a way to give like that. And really one of the things you're doing through your product is providing a way for them to actually give and participate in that process. Now, sales promotions are a tremendous tool. We've seen a lot of different ways you can use them, but they really depend, and actually a lot of your marketing promotions depend on the skill and how well trained your salespeople are. So next we're going to talk about actual personal selling, which is our fourth IMC tool. Now, I've been involved in personal selling since I was about 15 years old. I've worked in retail stores. I started off as a soda jerk working at a soda counter in a drugstore, and I've worked a lot of retail in different locations. I've also done telemarketing. I was a financial advisor for a while. I've done a lot of different kind of sales roles. So I can really appreciate the position that salespeople are in, but also as a marketer, I can see how important salespeople are, because that's really the face of your company to your customers, because that's going to be the face-to-face interaction that they have with your company or with your product, is through your salespeople. So it's very important that you have the right kind of people in place, and that they're really trained to do well. One of the places I worked was GNC, and I was very motivated to learn about the product, and I really liked talking to people when they came in, and I did a lot of self-studying and learned the product, and really wanted to help people when they came in. On the other hand, I had a coworker that really didn't care. He was just there for his $6 an hour and didn't really care what people bought. And there's a tremendous difference when people came in the door between talking to me and talking to this person. I was somebody that really wanted to help them and find the right product, and usually made some kind of sale. Whereas for him, it was just a matter of, okay, when are you going to get out here so I can get back to reading my magazine? Now the thing with GNC at the time, maybe they've changed since then, is that they spend a lot of money on advertising and television commercials. We had a lot of the fitness magazines in the store we could look through, and in every one there'd be several full-page glossy ads by GNC. So obviously they were spending a lot of money on advertising. But they did not, at least in our store, did not train their employees, and they did not pay us very well. So what would happen is they'd actually be driving people into the store, but when you got there, the service, at least some of the time, was so poor, those people didn't want to come back. So I think you can learn a little lesson there. If you're going to drive people into your store, make sure you have trained people there and competent people, and people who are there for the right reasons that are really going to be a good face of your company to the public. Otherwise, you've wasted your money driving people there in the first place. Or maybe cut back on some of your advertising and spend some of that money in training your people. What I've seen is that when companies aren't willing to do that, it causes what I call bright flight. If it's a working environment where people are not paid well, or they're not trained, your smart people are going to leave. Because what smart person would really want to work in that type of environment? So what are you left with? You're left with people that really either aren't that bright or they don't really care about their job. So it's very important that your working environment is someplace where you're really going to attract and you're going to develop and you're going to retain quality people for your organization. And I really believe in training. That's one area where they've done some studies and they have found that you can get a 20-to-1 return on investment for training. Now that's a great investment. That's much better investment than you get in the stock market, and most of the investments you're going to make with your business. So it really pays to train your people. And when you hire people, you really have three options. You can either hire somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, and you can spend the time and the money to train them to do things right. Or you could try to hire somebody who already knows how to do everything, and you don't have to train them at all. Or the third thing you can do is pray. Because if you're not training your people and you're not hiring people that already know what they're doing, you better be praying, because I don't see how they're really going to be able to do a good job for you. So bottom line, you really need to be training your people if you want to be successful. And this is very, very important. If you have people involved in the sales process at all, this is really your most important promotional tool. Because anything else you're doing that you're driving people to come check you out or to interact with their product, your salespeople are going to represent you to the public, and they're going to be that human connection and interaction. So if you mess up there, it really doesn't matter what other kind of promotions you've done. Now there's a few keys to sales success when you have salespeople. One of the things you can do for your salespeople is to let them try your product. So if you really believe in your product and what it does, then make sure your salespeople are able to try it, because they'll have a better understanding of what it is, what it can do, and they'll be able to recommend it to customers. The other thing is to train, which I've already mentioned. The third is to have a good environment for them to work in, an environment where really good, competent people are going to want to stay and to work. Next would be pay. You really need to pay your people well. Most people think that's the number one motivator. But again, when they do studies, pay is not the number one motivator for people to stay in a job. It's usually things like being able to contribute, having some kind of training so they know they're investing in them, and to work in a good environment. But pay is on the list. So if you have those other things, pay is just going to be something that helps you keep those people. And then the last thing is to get feedback from your employees. Involve them in the decision-making process, make them feel like they're a part of it. It's good for them because they're going to be more committed, and it's also good for you because you're going to gain valuable feedback about how the process is going, which we'll talk more in Key 6 in gaining feedback. IMC tool number 5 is direct marketing. Now this is a misused tool, or things are being done that are called direct marketing, which truly aren't direct marketing. Now true direct marketing means you have some information about the person that you are sending this marketing communication to. It's not random, it's not cold calling. you actually have some kind of relationship where you know something about this person and you're able to sell them useful information. The card clubs are a good way to do this. Some of the grocery stores have a little card you can use when you purchase products, and you slide it through and you get a discount on certain products, and it provides a lot of great information for the store that they can follow your purchases. They can really get a profile of what you want, what you like, and this creates a great database of information. So when they do have some kind of product or somebody wants to do a promotion, say they're looking for someone who likes chocolate chip cookies like me, they're able to look to this database, and I would be the perfect person to send a coupon for chocolate chip cookies to, because I would likely use it and try it out, and if I like it, I would continue to buy it because I'm someone that purchases chocolate chip cookies, and I would even say I'm an ideal customer for that. But what I've found is some of these card clubs I've been involved with is I never get those coupons. I never get information that's targeted towards me that has to do with my purchases. So I'm not really sure what they're doing with this information, but they're not really using it correctly. Another form of direct marketing and a way that you can really customize and personalize your marketing is through catalogs. Now I get a catalog from Franklin Covey, which is a planner and planning store. And what's really cool is that not only does it have my name on the front, but it says, Michael, we see that you use the Monarch pages, and we also know that your pages are going to be running out this October, because I actually bought them at a weird time. And those pages are on page 14. Now that's a great customization. It has my name. It tells me that they know who I am, that I shop with them, they value my business, they know that I'm a loyal customer, and they're sending me information that I can use that will help me in my purchase. They're telling me exactly where it is, and that's actually going to save me time, and it's more convenient for me. So that's a great way to use direct marketing, to really cater and help out the people that you're sending your information to. A professor of mine was a big fan of a running store where he had purchased some running shoes, and when he bought the shoes, they took down his information, including his running style that he pronated a bit, and they put, obviously had what kind of shoes he bought. So when they sent him a catalog, it had his name on there, and it said it's been about 9 months since you purchased your shoes, and with the particular running style, it's probably time to replace those shoes, also based on the amount of miles you told us that you ran. And again, if you look on page 48, there's a list of shoes that would be a good replacement for the ones that you have. So again, customized information, direct marketing that has some information about your customer, and then you can send follow-up pieces that are going to actually help them and facilitate the relationship and keep it going and to continue to purchase a product. And these kind of communications are not intrusions. They're actually welcome in most cases because it's a benefit to the person receiving it. I don't have to go shopping, or I don't have to look through the catalog. You've already told me exactly what page it's on. So if you're going to do direct marketing, use the information you have about your customers and really provide something of value to them. This is part of why Google has become so popular and why they were different when it came to the way they did their model of internet advertising. Their AdWords, or their ads, are actually in context and relevant to information that's on the page that you're looking at. This is a tremendous idea, and again, it's not as direct because they don't really know you personally, but they are able to at least tweak their ads and target it more directly to what you're interested in and what you're looking at. Now, there are cases where you can have some scary personalization. Sometimes I'll get information that says, "Dear Mikhail," because it's spelled wrong, and people saying, all these intimate things about me or details about me, and I have no idea who this company is or where they got this information from. So you need to be careful about that. You don't want to scare your potential customers because you know too much about them, or treat them like they're your best friend when they've never heard of you. So you need to be careful with these kind of things. Email is another great tool that you've got some information, at least have an email address from somebody, and you're able to customize and send them relevant information, particularly if they've signed up for an e-zine or for information. You can customize information and send it to them directly. Telemarketing is a form of direct marketing because you're actually calling directly to someone's home. Now, most people don't like telemarketers, and I think part of the reason why is that a phone call is actually very personal. It's a one-on-one conversation with someone. So when someone you don't know calls you up and starts trying to have an intimate conversation with you, it's a little weird. So you tend to try to push them off. But if you use telemarketing the right way, because it is a personal tool, it really can help you facilitate and build your relationship. Like if someone does make a purchase from you and you give a follow-up phone call to see how are things going. A misuse is to randomly call people from a list and start to ask them personal questions. And that's what people think is direct marketing, but it really isn't, and it becomes an intrusion. Another popular form of direct marketing today, and it's growing like crazy, is network marketing or home marketing. And this is where we've kind of, again, changed the distribution channel, kind of gone straight from the manufacturer or distributor straight to people that can take it to your home, like Avon or Arbonne. Amway was very popular. And these are people going directly to other people, family and friends in their neighborhoods and in their communities, selling directly to them. This is also growing in popularity because more people are trying to have one of the spouses stay home, perhaps, and stay with the children. And this also provides a way that people can work out of their home or work part-time. So if you're looking to market your product, I definitely would check out some of the resources available through network or home marketing, rather than having to go through the traditional distribution channels or retailing. A lot of times when I talk about direct marketing, people say that this particular market is saturated. And I would say actually, I don't think it is, and the reason why is because most of what passes for direct marketing is not direct marketing. It's interruption marketing. It's people coming in, or they've got your name from a list or something like that. It's not truly direct marketing. True direct marketing is actually knowing something about your customer. There's some kind of pre-qualification, or they've made some kind of request for information. You know something about them, and you're able to customize your message in a way that's going to be something useful and helpful for them, not some kind of interruption. Last but not least, Internet and Interactive. The Internet has created huge changes in marketing, mostly in the distribution channels, the way we communicate with our customers, and a lot of times the way goods and services are moved from a manufacturer to a customer. Now, a key feature of the Internet is its ability to customize and be customized for your particular customer. Now, I use Yahoo. I have a little home page, and I started using this a few years ago. A friend invited me to do a fantasy league, a fantasy hockey league, so I had to sign up for a Yahoo account, and with that came my own Yahoo homepage. And I'd never seen anything like that, so I started looking at it, and then it said, edit this. I'm like, I wonder what that does. So I started editing the page, and I realized I could put sports scores from my favorite teams on there. I could get weather reports for my local community. I could have a calendar I could put local movie theaters. I could do whatever I wanted. I could customize all these different components of my homepage. Now, what's great about that from a marketing perspective is the Yahoo started to build a relationship with me. As I began to customize that, I'm investing in this particular product. And although I started to see other pages like that, it's like, well, I've already customized this page. I don't want to start customizing another page. So by doing that, and by them allowing me to customize, it really got me involved with them and with their product. And at the time, it was all free. Actually, it still is free. But when it came time for me to choose a new internet service provider, I said, you know what? I kind of like this Yahoo, and I'm already using it, and I'll give them a try. So now I've been a Yahoo paying customer for the last few years. So that's one way that you can use the internet to start to interact with your customers. Another big benefit of using the internet for your promotions is that you can actually track the results. So if you are doing a banner ad, or perhaps doing some Google AdWords or something like that, you can actually track how many people are seeing it, how many people are actually clicking on it, and how many people are actually buying it. You know what kind of return on investment you're getting. That's a huge advantage of the internet. It's a big reason why it has changed marketing, and it's changing advertising, because why do an ad where you have no measurement when you could do the same type of thing on the internet and see what's working and what isn't? Here's something to be careful about, though, when you're designing your website. Again, the goal is to communicate a message and to do it clearly. So make sure your navigation is easy to follow. Google's a good example. Google's very plain, it's white, it's text. It's very easy to find what you're looking for. Nothing's hidden. One thing that's popular is to have what web guru Vincent Flanders calls mystery meat navigation, where you're not sure what you're going to get till you roll over something with your mouse. So you might have 5 different things on the page, and as you roll over, it'll say like contact information or buy the product or whatever. And it's kind of like that old game where the memory game where you flip the cards over and you got to remember where the match was. Now, most of your customers don't want to do that. If they're coming there to purchase something, let them purchase it. Another example of that is to have usually they're called flash movies, some kind of little movie or advertisement that people need to watch before they get into your website. Now, this is akin to someone coming into your store and picking up a product for purchase and going to the register and trying to hand you money, and you say, no, wait a second, let me show you this commercial for what you're about to buy before I let you buy that. You want to make your website as easy to use as possible. You also want to make it, if somebody's coming there to purchase your product, very easy for them to purchase it. Make it easy for them to find how to purchase it and then make that purchase. You don't really need to show them a commercial about your website when they're already at your website. Now, of course, I'm speaking more about commercial sites or things where you're selling products and things like that. There are exceptions to this rule, like if you are in the entertainment business or perhaps you're an artist, that might be appropriate to have some things like that. I'm going to get much more into detail in an upcoming follow-up to this called Marketing 2.0, because this is a huge subject, really a subject all on its own, on how the internet has really changed marketing and just spawned a whole new philosophy and ways of communicating and doing marketing. So a lot of people ask me, should I be using all these tools? Well, you don't have to use all of them necessarily, but you should use as many as possible, because the more things you can use, just like in an organization, you start to create synergy and they start to work together and they feed on each other. Now, a good example of this is the movie Willy Wonka, where they put a golden ticket in the chocolate bars. Now, by putting this golden ticket in there, that's a sales promotion. They start to cause a stir, and that starts to get media publicity, and you start to see it on TV over and over again. So those two tools begin to work together, work and feed on each other, make each other stronger. So you want to do the same thing with your tools. Make them work together and create some synergy and some power there. Now, the more congruent they are, the more they fit together, the more they look alike, the more they build on each other, have the same type of themes, same kind of looks, same promise, you're continually promoting your competitive advantage, the more synergy you're going to have. You need to make sure, though, that everything you're doing is promoting your competitive advantage. Of all these things we've talked about, promote your competitive advantage. And in the end, they are moving people into building a stronger relationship with you and your product, which will be tomorrow when we talk about Key 5, building relationships.